I ain't gonna lie. When I was 20, 21, I was very self conscious, especially in the gym. So picture this. You got your hood on, you got your earbuds in, you're looking at the ground in between sets, not talking, not interacting with people, mind your own business, laying low, getting in what you gotta do, and leaving ASAP, right? So self consciousness is the idea that you always view yourself from an external perspective in the sense of you are more self aware with yourself. Now, self consciousness also describes the idea that you feel as if you're always being judged by other people, silently judged, silently being looked at, and it's very off putting because there's a reason why self conscious people do this, right? They want to not feel as if they're being not normal or not having a lack of manners in the sense of being polite and fitting in to what they think other people would like instead of being authentic to themselves. Now, this is a real issue because it suppresses confidence, it suppresses self esteem, and it just kind of leads you into this whole um, being a prisoner of your own mind. Breaking out of self consciousness was difficult, and I'd say I'm about 80 to 90% of the way there. I'm definitely more authentic now than what I was 4 or 5 months ago, mainly because, long story short, military school, afraid of narcs snitching, stuff like that. But besides that, being out and being free, I would have never really recorded myself in the gym with people around. And now I'm recording myself in the gym with many people around. And yeah, I've caught some words, and it doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, the same hate that you receive doesn't matter because, I mean, you're going to die. And I know it sounds nihilistic, but you only have one life. So, like, why are you going to try to measure it up to somebody else's standards that is implicitly implied on you? So when it comes to self-consciousness, there are many aspects that you have to recognize in order to overcome it, right? So obviously with self-consciousness, you're excessively self-aware. You're always thinking about what you're going to say, what you're going to do. You're generally an overthinker, and that's so unhealthy because you're thinking of the next thing you're going to say, and then someone says something else, and then you got to reroute your brain. It's like, my friends make this joke with me where it's like, I pause in between sentences sometimes, and that's because it's like, it's I've rooted my brain into one certain social situation as if it wasn't a fluid situation, right? So that is something that I thought was pretty funny. But besides these long pauses and just being super self-critical with myself, my self-esteem was also kind of low. Not to mention I was always striving for perfection in the sense of I'd record something. Now this is just an example with YouTube. I'd record something, didn't like it, delete it, rewrite it, reshoot it, re-edit it, or just always with my work. Like when I went to college, I just graduated. When I went to college, kids would see me as like a perfectionist, or those around me would see me as a perfectionist. I always made sure every I was dotted, every T was crossed, and everything was perfect to a T before I sent it off. Now, that could be good in some cases, but doing it for every single situation, it was just mentally taxing and unhealthy. And most of the time, I didn't do it for myself, but for others. And if I wasn't happy doing it for others, why would I continue to do it? Because at the end of the day, this might sound a little selfish. You gotta do things for yourself. So when it came to feeling self-conscious, it'd be like, I'd plan out things, be like, okay, today I'm gonna record at the gym because I want to hit some poses, want to see how I'm looking up with my bulk, for example. And some days I just fall short and not record. And the way that I got over the self-conscious, especially for that example, was just being aware of my feelings in that instance. For example, I take my shirt off, look in the mirror, and then start to pull my phone out, and then I'd notice that person in the back on the bench 50 feet away and thinking about what they think just because they glanced over at me. It's like, why does that matter? And just being aware of that, being like, oh, there's some random person on that bench over there. There's probably something I could judge them for. So, I mean, who are they to judge and who am I to judge? So just being aware of that and just being like, yeah, fuck it. I'm going to pull my camera, record my workout, or do whatever I so choose and move on, Another thing I've really struggled with when it comes to being self-conscious is just negative thoughts in the sense of not seeking myself to value in the sense of I justify me not doing certain things because I'd be like, oh well, that person seems better and they're not doing it. That's not necessarily the point. They might just not want to do it. And if you want to do it, then go after it. Just reminding yourself of your accomplishments in certain times where you're thinking less of yourself will end up making you realize that you are more valuable than you think you are, which justifies you doing the action that you want to do because you're that guy. I know that sounds cliche and cringy, but you're him. Now, self consciousness is generally overthinking, like what's next or what that person's thinking of me. Going back into the idea of thinking what's next, like the whole idea of that I'd pause in between my sentences when talking to people, ties into the idea that you're not present. What I mean by that is you have an exit route and you're not letting things flow in the situation. You gotta let things flow. You gotta think of a witty comeback. You gotta think of funny, flirtatious vibes when you're talking to a girl, for example. I was never good at any of that. I was always thinking, oh, what's your major? Oh, I gotta go get some food. Obviously, overthinking each and every situation and what you're gonna say next is not the right way to do things. Like, I mean, obviously, for this video that I'm doing right now, I have a script and I have a way that I've planned everything out that I'm gonna talk about. So it kind of ties into the idea that I know what I'm talking about and I'm trying to make things a point. But in social situations where you are in the moment and you're enjoying everyone else's presence or even the activity that you are doing at hand, don't overthink it. Do what you got to do in that second. Next thing I would do is have positive affirmations within my internal monologue. And what that essentially means is that I would pretty much tell myself that I'm great, and mainly backed on the idea of my past accomplishments, which I just described. But you don't want to peak on your past accomplishments because there's a level of confidence. There's a thin line between confidence and being a douchebag because of your past accomplishments and you've peaked, right? You don't want to be the quarterback from high school, from every cliche 80s movie. You want to be happy with what you've done, but know that you can do more in the future, of course. So just remind yourself of, you know what, I've came this far. This is the shit I've done, and it's worked so far for me. So why am I gonna stop just because someone else is looking at me or judging me, or that I think I shouldn't do that because I would be disturbing people? That doesn't make sense. Just drop that attitude. Positively affirm yourself of just like what you've done and do the things you want to do. It's that simple. And lastly, I know I said it's that simple, but you can't put your foot on the gas immediately, right? You got to gradually expose yourself to these things. I think gradual exposure is great because it teaches you take a little bit at a time and see how comfortable you are with it. I mean, you could go full-fledged into it, but then you're just going to kind of make yourself look like an ass or maybe look like a phony for being too overconfident or put on a fake facade for being confident when you're really not. So just gradually expose yourself. Kind of realize, the water's not that cold and, people aren't going to judge you, or at least 95% of the time, if you're doing something that is embarrassing to yourself, people don't have the guts to tell you that it's embarrassing or cringy or whatever, right? So, for example, I was at the gym last week and I was posing in the mirror and I didn't even have my camera out. Keep in mind, didn't have my camera out. Two guys next to me, my earbuds were off, but I had my earbuds in, and these two guys near me said, oh, like, I would totally be talking shit. And the other guy was like, yeah, but look, not right here. And then they left. So I continued posing. I looked in their direction, but I continued posing. And needless to say, gradually expose yourself. People are going to talk crap. And even if you are afraid that they're going to talk crap or feel like you're being silently judged, most of the time they don't have the guts to. So just go right ahead. And even then, it's like they're just projecting their own insecurities of their lack of willpower to do what you want to do. Because, I mean, I guarantee, for example, guarantee those guys were jealous of my physique. Just saying, they were kind of a little bit fat, but who am I to judge? But doing the one small thing tomorrow and then doing two small things the day after, and then doing maybe a big thing a week from now. Build small habits to gradually exposing yourself and just being less aware of the things that you are doing in the sense that you are less restricting. You know, I think that's very important. Self consciousness has crippled me to my knees for years. Fear of rejection, fear of being judged, fear of being looked at, fear of being outcasted. I guess mainly because when I was younger, but that's not an excuse for today because I built myself up, and I'm sure many other people whom of which might be watching. I don't expect this to get a lot of views, but for those watching, I'm sure you've experienced a sense of bullying or being left out to dry when you were younger. But if you've built yourself up, what do you have to lose? You've proven yourself time and time again. So just get out there, drop the self consciousness. If people are gonna judge, just think about it. You're gonna die one day. You know, you only have one life. So I know this is kind of like a more honest, more open video, but I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Stan. I come out with new self-improvement videos every week, and I actually thought about dropping another video in the few days talking about like gym stuff like, you know, being at the gym. But we'll see. With that being said, thank you for watching. Check out some of my other videos that I did. I'm done talking about the unscripted book. I know I talked about that book in the last 3 or 4 videos, but it was just a good book. I just got done with it. So, that being said, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, check out some of my other videos, and peace.